property manager had sold his building and kicked us out.
Oh, gosh.
So I had to get that place desperation last minute, and they knew we were waiting on a bigger space to come available in the building. Hang on, guys. But when I was moving, this one of my things expired. What you do? I'm late. No, I don't know what you're talking about. This is the top right. Go ahead. There's no info. Oh, for God's sakes. Okay, I have my desktop, right? I'm going from my desktop. Back to the Zoom. This should not have to be how it be done. God damn it, Come on, Google icon. Are you trying to pull up the Google Chrome tool, Scott? Wait, right now, listen to me. I'm staring in front of the TV and my desktop is on. Okay? So the Zoom icon is in the top left-hand corner, right? Correct. You want me to tap on that? Okay, now I got the little bullshit screen up. It shows what time it is, join the meeting schedule, share screen. Four buttons. New meeting, join, schedule, and share screen. You're gonna have to drop here, actually. I'm in front of the team. Y'all, I'm getting mad at my person, so be cool. I mean, here's the point. You don't tell me. You know, there's no option to sign out. Okay, now I have an enter your email and password screen. I'm doing it now. So now I got the join screen again. Start. Hold on, it should be connected. It is. Bye. This is someone I was planning on firing next week, so they just expedited that damn job. Y'all, I'm just a little angry. I'm really in a good mood. It's just the anxiety, you know, everybody's staring. Hey, all y'all out there, a big number of you out there. Hope you're doing well. Tonight is our first night of an 8.5 week to 9 week licensing course. You virtual students, if you are not tonight, tomorrow night, I want you to create an environment that's conducive to learning. I have discovered that a lot of our virtual students watch the course on their phone, and that is not the right way to do it. Find a desk, a laptop, a desktop. Maybe you can project the class on your TV if you're in that room. Have your legal pad. If you have a book that you bought, great. I don't know if you have an electronic book that you're going to refer to on a device, etc. But just be an environment where you can take notes, look at things. And you know, when you sit down to class, don't sit down in your gym shorts and a t-shirt. You know, put clothes on like you're going out to dinner. Your dress affects you physiologically, believe it or not. So it's only an 8-week course. You got a short burst of energy and effort and time to get to where you're trying to get to. And if you screw up 2 of those damn 8 weeks, you might not pass the exam and get to where you're trying to get to. So it's very doable. I would imagine all y'all know somebody that's in the business, right? And I bet you, maybe you know 2 people in the business. Is that right? Maybe 3 people. If you were to close your eyes and picture any of these people, do any of them fit in the category, damn it, if they can do it, I can? Any of them? Like, I've got some toothless friends. And I'm not making fun of toothless people. Half my family has no teeth, you know. But I'm just saying. Any scientist has determined that any exam you don't study and prepare for is going to be hard as hell. The reason I'm saying that is I'm just getting it out of the way because a lot of you have been told this is hard as hell, right? But it's not. It's just when people, and we're adults, no one's requiring us to study when we get home. That's the pain in the neck about being a grown-up. You're only accountable to yourself. And I don't know about y'all, I am my worst enemy. So we're going to have some fun. I'm a clown in human skin, okay? I love to goof, but I never compromise taking care of business. I'm a 50-50. We 50 goof, we 50 take care of business. So I tell a lot of corny stories and jokes. If you want to pass, you will laugh. But we're going to kind of start out for about 30 minutes and talk about, you know, how to ease into this course. Got me my first class notes. My class, now we've got satellite students out here too, not just virtual students. So we have some students in satellite classrooms. You should have been provided by your classroom a syllabus. This applies to you virtual students too. Now everything was sent to you virtual students electronically. It's your job to print things out. But the syllabus, you know, when I was in college, I threw my syllabus away after the first day. I really didn't. I thought they were just formalities, you know, but your syllabus in this class is your Bible. If you lose one, I believe you can print a new one from the Google Classroom. Now, you should have received an email, you know, acknowledging that you've signed up for the course, and in that email was access to the Google Classroom. It is required that you access the Google Classroom. In the modern day, it's a wonder. We can provide messages, homework assignments. You can see scheduled events, the exam, etc. It's a wonderful thing. But yeah, your syllabus gives you contact information for us, for the testing service, for the real estate commission. There's your attendance requirements. There are study suggestions, etc. Pretty much everything you're going to need to know during this 9-week process in your syllabus. Guys, a lot of us are a part of a family unit. If you're a part of a family unit, tell your family to give you a break for the next 8 weeks. You know, usually when you're in a family unit, everybody's got individual responsibilities and tasks. You're looking surprised. Oh, yay, yay. Yeah, normally people within a family unit are responsible for things. Tell your family to give you a break. That when and if you have free time over the next 8 weeks, you're going to be studying. Okay. And I need for you to study, make the decision as a professional student, that's what you are, to study every day. And I know that sounds corny, but I want you to pass. Right now, there's no other incentive for me wanting you to pass other than me just being a nice guy, because I didn't spend your money. Okay, it's gone. Huge bill yesterday. You know, just wrote a $17,000 check. Gone. So it's just the Christian in me that wants y'all to get to where you're trying to get to. And I know the formula. So if you ignore the formula, as I tell it to you tonight, that's your call. And it's okay because you're a professional student. See, when you're a kid, you know, you're going to get spanked at home if you don't do good, right? You're going to get trouble. You're professional. You're grown up. You're going to get in trouble when you go home. So you can half-ass it to the finish line. I don't care. But it's just 8 weeks of studying. We're not going to be digging ditches and getting calluses and bleeding and getting back problems. We just want to find a comfortable place and spend a lot of time in it over the next 8 weeks. This is very doable. But the one thing you have to grasp is the mother of learning is repetition. That fact doesn't change as we get older. You remember as a kid having to repeat something over and over and over, either to yourself or a family member, your multiplication, the capital, you know, whatever, vocabulary. And you had to do it over and over and over. That's how the brain learns. And we're going to introduce to you a new language. And as I explain concepts to you, you'll understand them because I'm a hell of a teacher. But most students will equate to, I'm going to get that question right on the exam. I understood what Mark was saying. No, you've got to hammer that. Repetition's the mother of learning. So don't get comfortable with the fact that you clearly understand something I'm talking about in class and make you think that I'm going to get that question right. So study a little every day. I say study an hour every day, 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the evening. Why do I say that? Because most of us have morning and evening routines. Just incorporate 30 minutes of this into your morning. Make your morning routine longer, in other words. Make your evening routine longer. And what you're going to do is in those 30 minutes is rehash the most recently covered material, right? And in fact, I'm not asking you to spend any more time. What I'm going to ask you to do is instead of on your phone when you wake up in the morning, I don't know about y'all, but that's what I do. I spend about 30 minutes on the phone before I get up. Put your damn book where your phone is. You know, when you wake up in the morning, grab your book and just start flipping pages. Just substitute the book for your phone, you know, and for the next 8 weeks. That's all. Take notes during class. It strengthens retention. Whenever you are writing down what you are hearing simultaneously, it increases retention from 17 to 27%. At least that's what the nerds tell me. Quizlet. First of all, a lot of what I'm mentioning, you'll find in your syllabus. Quizlet.com is a website for people who are preparing to take a licensing exam. Guys, there are hundreds of thousands of people around the country right now doing what you're doing. They're in a course preparing to take a license exam. Nursing, insurance, stockbrokers, general contractors, subcontractors, home inspectors, cosmetology, gee whiz, I could probably go on for another 10 minutes. Quizlet is a source of practice quizzes for licensing courses and students in licensing courses. So when you get to Quizlet.com, use the search bar to find real estate material. Now, you'll notice when you go to Quizlet.com that there are some mistakes. And the reason why is because it is user-fed, like Wikipedia. The users provide the content. So we have already put a tremendous amount of content on Quizlet. So all you have to do is go up to the search bar and type in My Real Estate School. Whatever content we have put in Quizlet would pop up. We also have an exam prep package. You'll discover that that's something that people sell in the real estate education business because we're trying to compete with other people and do it cheaper. So our exam prep package includes thousands of additional practice quizzes, flashcards, etc. It even gives you an additional attempt at the final exam. So if you don't do well on the final exam, you paid for the exam prep, you get an extra attempt. I had a young man, 23 years old, came in here happy as a lark. He passed it on his second attempt. So we were thankful that he didn't have to spend another 10 weeks and spend another $400 or $500 on the course. Guys, I was, me and my woman was at my friend's house. Both him and her are my friends. Randy and Sandy, can you believe that? Sandy's a doctor, and we're all in our 50s. So we're having old people Friday night conversation, talking about Alzheimer's and dementia. You know, how do we avoid it? What are you eating? You know what I mean? So with Sandy being a doctor and privy to a lot of information we're not, she had found out that she had found an article in a publication related to Alzheimer's that said that rosemary, the oil, the natural oil, increases retention up to 76%, which is an amazing stat. So when I read that and we talked about it, I immediately thought, I'm going to take that to class. Isn't retention important in learning? Hell yeah. So get you some rosemary. You know, I ain't got the damn diffuser. I ain't got it cranked up tonight. I'm gonna start cranking it up tomorrow night. A lot of you gals, you know, you into the oils, you got a diffuser. Hell, get that thing cranked up, man. You know, coroners, they got a little cream they put under their nose when they have to work with the deceased because of the smell. That's what I would do if I'm young. I'll put a little oil right there under my nose, right when I get home, get to studying. And then on the way into the exam site, at the end of this thing, when you're trying to pass your state, put a little under there. That's where the brain starts recalling what you learned while you had it. They even say it works with gum. If you chew grape gum while you're studying and then put a piece of grape gum in your mouth on the way to the exam, they say your brain will start recalling information that you were studying while you were chewing the grape gum. They say classical music helps you retain. They've done studies where they put someone in an MRI, listen to classical music, whole brain lit up like a Christmas tree. Put somebody in that ain't listening to classical music, only about 40% of the brain lit up. Scientists don't know why some things happen. They have no explanation of why classical music creates blood flow through the entire brain, but I can assure you, if you're learning and you got blood flow through the entire brain, that's going to help you learn. So if I'm y'all and I'm at home studying, I'm going to have the rosemary. First of all, you can get it in the form of an inhaler. It's called Study Buddy. You can order it online. The kids, college kids across America are going bonkers with the Study Buddy. It was made for college students. It's like an inhaler. You take the cap off, you know, like a Vicks inhaler. I think it's about $5 to $10 a stick. So if I'm y'all, I got one stick up each nostril. I got my beats on, you know, listening to the classical. Because I'm a fan of working smart, not hard, and I hope y'all are too. Guys, multiple choice exams are an enigma in the education world. Talk to somebody who's a teacher. You know, often it's not a reflection of how smart you are, but how your brain thinks and orders information. Some people are not good at standardized exams. And some people swear, and they prove to themselves every day by saying it. I have students, some of y'all are going to come up to me today. Mr. Yarbrough, I'm just not real good at tests. I don't test well. Okay, you may not. Quit telling your damn self that. It's called negative affirmations. All you're doing is ensuring it's going to be true till the day you die. All right. So if you have never tested bad in the past, that's okay. Just quit saying that. I'm going to try to give you little tips throughout the course to help you pass this damn thing. Get your money's worth out of the internet and YouTube. Guys, I took this class in 1987. I was a baby. I was so cute. I only had to shave about every 2 weeks. God bless me. I looked 14. But after the instructor said something, that was the last time I heard it. You guys live in a modern world. There are a million knuckleheads like me teaching every bit of this crap on YouTube. This book right here, there are thousands of books for the pre-licensed course, just like there are thousands of sodas in the convenience store, but this is the Coca-Cola of real estate licensing course textbook. So you can go to YouTube. If there's a particular chapter, you know, Unit 16, real estate appraisal, you can put that in the search bar. Unit 16, real estate appraisal. A million knuckleheads like me will pop up. Some of them doing 3-hour versions. Some of them doing 1-hour summaries. Some of them doing 15-minute summaries. Some of them PowerPoint presentations, etc. So you get to hear this crap as many times as you want. I got to hear it one damn time. So repetition is in the palm of your hand. You can get it repeated to you as many times as you want. I had a student a couple of years ago. I was out of town. Somebody left a voicemail. Mr. Yarbrough, will you call me? I was hoping you could tell me again what a sole proprietor is. I was out of town. I didn't get home until 5 days later. I called her. I said, hey, I just got in from out of town. I've been really busy. Have you had a chance to find what the sole proprietor is since Thursday? No, sir. I've been waiting on you. Damn. Man, just get on the Google machine. Sole proprietor, you know, it takes 7 seconds. Get your money's worth out of the internet. YouTube, wonderful source of tons of this information. And the internet is. Guys, I read fiction a lot, especially in the summertime. And if you're like me and you've got a book at all times with a page dog-eared because you're in the middle of it, put that book up. You may be halfway in between a book right now. Put it up. Your focus needs to be here. You do not need to share your focus on anything else. But ultimately, and above all, and this is the most important thing, you know you better than anybody. The information, the tips and suggestions I just gave were for a general statistical group of people. But guys, y'all know in life, you've met some of these people. Some people smart as scientists, some people dumb as cardboard. Most of us right in the middle. But again, you know you better than anybody. And here's the irony. The more learned you are, the more you're going to struggle with a multiple choice exam. It is scientifically, statistically proven. The more education you got, the less likely you are to pass standardized exam. You ever heard the old saying, ignorance is what? Bliss. Sometimes the less you know, the clearer your thinking is. You only know what you've recently been told. So yeah, smart people, beware. Go in there humble and don't think, well, I got a master's. Well, I've just told you a reason not to be too proud of that fact. And if you hear my test taking tips and you're thinking, well, I'm the one that's dumb as cardboard. Well, you probably need to study 3 times more than I just suggested. Again, ultimately, you're your own boss. But I will tell you one instructor, if you want to write them down, that I like on YouTube that I would recommend to you that when you're outside of class, you want to hear a class again for repetition. Travis Everett. He's out of North Carolina. I saw him on Love It or List It. Y'all ever seen that show? Yeah, he's a gay man, and him and his man was on Love It or List It. And I was like, I'll be damned. I know him. Yeah. So, but you know why I like Travis? Because he's like me. I'm never going to talk over your head. Okay. And I get mad at instructors that think I know everything they're saying and talk over my head. I got somebody with a question. Yes, sir. Everett. Yeah, Everette. Travis Everett. So there's a test taking tips. Now we're going to ease into the material. Yes, hon? Was there no folders up there? Uh-oh. I'll tell you what, I'll have one for you tomorrow night. And yeah, I'll have one. There's nothing in there you need tonight, so I'll have you one tomorrow night. A student enrollment agreement is what I need to get from you, but again, it's not that important because you've already paid. I just need the information. I'll get it tomorrow, so no worries. No problem. So we're going to ease into the material. Oh, yeah. Look at here. Right when you open the book, see the green thing? See the little green thing? This is what my students tell me help them the most. It's an app. It says free trial access. You know how that works. But guys, I'm not trying to make any money. I didn't make all the money I'm going to make off of you. This is Dearborn's money. I'm just letting you know things exist. This app you pay for time. You're not going to have the app forever. It'll dissolve electronically off your phone. You can pay for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Guys, this is a 9-week course. We have a midterm at about our 4.5-week point. I would recommend you buy the app for 30 days after the midterm. That way you don't have to pay for it for 60 days. You can save a little money because you kind of want to be towards the end when you're taking comprehensive practice quizzes. The cool thing about the phone is we always have it on us when we're in the toilet, for crying out loud, you know? So you can't rely on the excuse, oh, I left my book at home, at work. You can't rely on that excuse. We always got our phone on us. When you take practice quizzes, it evaluates it, analyzes it, reveals to you your strengths and your weaknesses, will point to the material that you need to rehash relative to the questions that you're missing. It's pretty nice. You can watch videos on subject matter. There is, in fact, look at the website on the card, www.dearborn.com/products, etc. That is a store with other tools. They've got a CD that somebody read the whole book on. You can get the disc. You know what? Now that I think about it, they've probably moved away from the disc. I've been telling people that for a few years. They ain't doing no disc no more. God, I'm just now realizing that. But regardless, something like that's available. I've had students tell me they bought it and they listen to it while they sleep, hoping that their brain is recording some stuff, you know? You can get flashcards, practice quizzes, all kinds of stuff. I need to go to the store and learn up on it a little better so I can tell y'all what all's there. But there's other study tools if you want to shop around. Guys, based on the average priced home in Birmingham Metro. Now, a lot of you virtual students sound like you're not in Birmingham, but the numbers are not going to be that much different where you're at. Based on the average median priced home in Birmingham right now. As a salesperson, you're going to make anywhere from $6,300 to $7,000 per sale. My point is I'm frugal. So I'm really that's why I'm telling y'all this. Because, you know, I would be like, I ain't spending $40 on no app. I'll just bone up on it a little harder. If $40 gets you to the promised land where you're making $65 a click, spend the damn $40. That's what I'm saying. Let's take this little 8-9 week period of time we got in front of us and take it serious. Some of y'all are young in this room. This could be life altering. Okay. Because if you don't pass, you know what? You get disillusioned, disappointed in yourself, and there's a chance you ain't going to come back and take it again. And only about 65% of y'all are going to pass. And that number is very true from class to class. And it ain't because this is hard. It's because people half-ass it. Just saying, guys, I joined, you know how many times? 3 times in my life I have signed up for a 1-year membership for a gym to get a break. Didn't go one damn time. Like I think it was back in 2011, I went and signed up for a gym. I said, how much is it for a month? He was like, yeah. I said, how much for a year? And I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah. Paid the money, never went. One time. 2 years later, I did it again. Didn't go one time. 2 years later, I did it again. Didn't go one time. So that's why I didn't get any results. So I'm not trying to discourage you by giving you daunting statistics. I'm just trying to say, if you give a damn for the next 9 weeks, you'll handle your business. You'll get to where you're trying to get to. But this course is not like something at college that you might have been like I was. I didn't take a book off until right before the final. Don't get me wrong, I didn't make good grades in school, but I was able to never take anything home and study. I was able to just get by with cramming before. I had enough street smarts, I guess. You cannot do that with this course. I don't want you to spend your money and not get something out of it. So let's start having some fun. Let's ease into the material. I've got all the serious adult talk out of the way. And I want you to turn to the 5th page, not page 5, the 5th page. It says online exam practice question bank. There is a database, a bank, if you will, of practice quizzes. You have free access to them. Now, some of you guys, they did a 21st edition second print. Yeah, they did a 2 21st edition prints, and 1 edition is about 3 paragraphs off. I've already cursed them out. How stupid is that? To do 2 prints in 1 edition and they be different. So yeah, some of y'all may find yourself 2 or 3 paragraphs off from where I say we are. But on the 5th page, which is page IX, you see a website. That's the website for the store. You can use that promo code and you can go in and formulate a quiz. You know, like you can go to the mall and make your own bear. You can make your own quiz. Like, you know, which material was tough. You may design the quiz and say, I want 30 questions on unit 12 because unit 12 was a booger to me. I want 20 questions on unit 8. I didn't like that either. I need some help on that one. I want only 10 questions on unit 6. You get what I'm saying. Now, let's turn to page 1. And we'll start into the subject matter. As you would imagine, gang, the first 2 chapters, especially the first, is just an overview. Okay, it's not going to be very specific. Our learning objectives, we're going to talk about careers that are available in the industry. And then we'll talk about different classifications and characteristics of real property, types of housings that me and you can choose from. The major goal of fair housing laws and supply and demand in the real estate market. So let's turn the page, start this conversation. It says real estate is a business of many specializations. First of all, I don't know if any of y'all have come to know this at this stage of your life, but real estate is the engine of our economy. If our engine is broke, our economy's broke. If real estate is fixed, our economy's fixed. And a lot of you are aware of the fact that most other countries' economies in the world, their economies are predicated on our economy. So the real estate industry in America holds the damn world together, kind of, sort of. And there are many areas of niches, if you will, specialization, brokerage being the primary one. That's what you're trying to enter. I haven't talked to any of you personally, don't know what your goal is to get a license, but statistically, the majority of people taking this course are going into residential sales. Some of you going into commercial real estate. Some of you want to go into property management of some flavor. Some of you are investors. and you just want to get a license so that if a property you're wanting to buy to flip, if it's listed, you get to get a commission. But again, statistically, the majority of you are in here to be a part of a real estate brokerage. Every industry has brokers, guys. You got a manufacturer of furniture. You got stores that want to sell furniture. There's a process of getting the furniture from here to there. Sometimes people are called reps. Sometimes people are called brokers. Sometimes reps and brokers are called salespeople. Sometimes they're called account executives. But they're all the same thing. They're the middleman. I like to call a broker a business cupid. I introduce two parties. They get married. I get monies for being the go-between, for having brought them together. Brokers. Even though we nickname ourselves and call ourselves salespeople, we're really not hired to sell real estate. The only person that can sell a property is the owner by signing the deed. We really just introduce the parties. Appraisal, part of our industry, mortgage lenders, fair or unfair. Time a borrower is making an application to borrow money, the lender is anticipating foreclosing. And if they lend more than the property, like if they have to foreclose and resell it, of course. So appraisers are a big part of the mortgage financing process. Got to make sure that the purchase agreement between the buyer and seller is in keeping with the appraised value. Property management, a big part of our industry. Some property managers are very sophisticated, some are not. Some property managers manage office towers in big cities that are 70, 80 stories tall. Some property managers manage malls all around the country, or they manage apartment buildings all around the country. Some apartment managers or some property managers only manage single properties that people own. Like I might manage Alice's 8 rental properties. They were her husband's, but her husband died 2 years ago. She don't know what to do with them. So she called me and said, would you manage these 8 properties? And I say, yes. Eric Postman, he likes to save a little money and buy a rental property here and there. He's got 5 rental properties, but his post office responsibilities are strong. So he hires me to manage them. So some property managers, they wear suits. Some property managers, hell, they cutting grass on Saturday, one of the properties. They may be fixing the plumbing in unit 3D, So you got sophisticated and unsophisticated property managers. Financing, mortgage financing. 8 out of 10 buyers of real estate have to get financing. 2 out of 10 pay cash. Subdivision and development. Let's call this new construction. Huge part of the real estate business. Some people elect to specialize in new construction. Some realtors, they don't specialize in anything. If you want me to help you sell something, I'll put a damn sign in the yard. I don't care if it's commercial, residential, ugly, pretty, little, big. But some people decide to specialize in things. And there are some realtors that choose to hang around and specialize in new construction. My whole life, and this is pretty much what I've done. This is my 36th year, coming up on 37. Y'all don't know. See, most of y'all are younger than me. I'll be damned. Every one of you are. You're going to start saying stuff like me, and it makes you feel weird, makes you feel old. I'm really having age problems at this time of my life. I'm really struggling with it. But going back in my day, the rock stars in my life were the developers and builders. They were the cool cats. They were the guys I would look at networking events like, should I go over there and talk to them? They were the cool cats, man. But new construction is legitimate. If I were to go into the business now, new construction's gonna have to blow up at some point in time because the country is in dire need of inventory. We're in a desperate situation as far as inventory is concerned. Home inspection. When I came into the business, there were no home inspectors. Home inspectors didn't come on the scene until about the turn of the century, around 2000. My brother-in-law is a home inspector. I've got a couple of friends that are home inspectors. They make a good living. They enjoy what they do. Nobody wants to spend a lot of money on lemon. So the need for a home inspector is not hard to figure out. Turn to the page. Counseling, education. I find myself in the education part of the business now. Now, halfway down the page, types of real property. The nerds like to categorize things. So you see a bulleted list of how real estate is categorized. Sometimes it's residential. Sometimes it's commercially zoned. There is a zoning called mixed use. It's not really a category, but I'll explain that later. Industrial, agricultural, special purpose. These are what we call land use districts. In fact, you can write that in the left-hand margin. Land use districts. I need to be writing notes and highlighting that book. Did you lose your old book?
Yeah, well, it was a different book.
That's the same thing. Yeah, pretty much. You can get away with it. There's a couple of pages off, but I'm sorry, I'm talking to a student. Types of housing, moving to page 5. We're about to go over some of the choices that me and you have as far as, where we choose to reside. You see in the 4th paragraph, the first option that we have is the single family detached home. Been one of the most popular housing types, it says there. We all understand what that is. I don't need to explain that to you. Moving down, you see apartment building. That's a choice. A lot of people mistakenly think that people who rent apartments do so because they have no other choice, because they can't afford to own. That's not always true. I know people that rent and they can afford to buy 10 times more than all of us in here can, but they travel a lot. So whenever you own your home, there's a certain amount of responsibility and upkeep required. If you're gallivanting around and they're gone for months at a time, it's not a good idea to be an owner, or at least be an owner if you're not rich enough to pay somebody to take care of the joint. So renting, heck, not only provides you flexibility, but when something breaks, all I got to do is call somebody. I ain't got to get it fixed myself. I ain't got the money involved. Often I got a swimming pool and tennis court, and if coincidentally I enjoy both of those are nice amenities when you couldn't afford them perhaps as a homeowner. And you don't got to cut no grass, blow the parking lot, everything's handled for you. So, both have their advantages. I think in life, when you choose this, you give this up. When you choose this, you give this up. If I choose to own, then I'm choosing to have the tax advantages that come with home ownership, and I'm choosing to build equity, but I give up the flexibility and the convenience. If I choose to rent, I'm giving up the tax advantages and the building of equity, but I'm getting into the flexibility and the convenience. So a natural segue as we move down the page, condominium. Condominium seems to be a way to have your cake and eat it too. Seems to combine the conveniences and advantages of the single-family detached home and the apartment building. In fact, most states around the country did not recognize the legal form of ownership called condominium until the early 70s. I think it was 1973 in Alabama. That was a fact I had to know when I took this course. They don't require you to know that anymore. But, think about it. If there's a 100-unit condominium complex and I buy one, as I walk around the condominium complex, I look and see what I own 1/100th of. There's a reason they call it common area. I own 1/100th of every blade of grass. I own 1/100th of the pool, 1/100th of the exterior of all the buildings. The only thing that I own individually is the interior of my unit. I got to open the door. I own the inside of my door. I only own 1/100th of the outside of my door. But again, guys, like I said, this is an overview. We're just touching superficially some of these subjects that we will break down throughout the 9-week course. Turning the page. You see at the top of page 6, a cooperative. Interestingly enough, a cooperative was a legal form of ownership that came about during the Depression 100 years ago. Ironically, over time, it has become a way that well-to-do people can own real estate. We'll talk about that. a PUD, a planned unit development. You know, the mother of invention is necessity. And I grew up in an era different than y'all. I grew up on the eastern side of town, Roebuck, Huffman. And I'm really having an issue with my age. I can't believe the things I have to say. I grew up before I-59 and I-65 were here. Damn, that makes me sound old. My God, the interstates didn't come about until I was about 8 years old, you know? So mama would get us in the car once a week and we had to go downtown because you young people don't understand. Back then, they didn't have 1,000 McDonald's. They had 3 in the whole Birmingham. You know, maybe 2 libraries in the whole damn city. You know, so you didn't have branches of everything. So mama had to go downtown to pay her Pizitz bill, go to the post office, you know, do some things. And it took 45 minutes to an hour to get downtown. We had to go First Avenue North. You couldn't go I-59 from Center Point to downtown. So PUDs were necessary. You see them sometimes called master plan communities. They might consist entirely of residences, but they can also serve to merge such diverse land uses as housing, recreation, commercial units into one self-contained development. Guys, 2 of the first PUDs in the United States were in Birmingham. In the late 70s, River Chase Parkway. A lot of y'all have never been to Birmingham. I don't mean to reference things you're not aware about. A lot of y'all. River Chase Parkway connects Montgomery Highway with Valleydale. About a 1.5-mile stretch of road. On that 1.5-mile stretch of road, you got residential subdivisions, apartment complexes, office building complexes, you got hotel, you got daycare, you got all of that. It's all a bunch of different kinds of zoning in one little compacted area. Inverness Parkway, hell, it's a twin sister of River Chase Parkway. About the same damn thing, you know. But these were 2 of the first PUDs, according to some old men that I know. There were city planners from all around America that came to Birmingham, you know, to get out and look at it. Moving down, you see high-rise developments, sometimes called mixed-use developments. Guys, over the last 25 years, most medium-sized cities in the Southeast, this may apply nationwide, but I only know it to be true in the Southeast. Most medium-sized cities have been trying to bring a residential community back downtown. Birmingham's done a bang-up job. They really have, you know. You got your Baton Rouges, you know, you got your Memphises, you know, you got medium-sized cities like Birmingham, and most of them have done a pretty good job. But, you know, if you want to live downtown, you got to have what residential people want. I got to have a library. Got to have me a UPS, FedEx drop-off pickup joint, maybe a post office, maybe a hardware store, maybe an auto parts store. You know, so let's say I'm a general contractor and I want to build a 15-story apartment building. They might say, Mr. Yarbrough, we're going to require from a zoning standpoint, but that the first level of your 15-story building is retail. That's so we can have a Mickey D's, a FedEx shop. And then the next 3 stories, Mr. Yarbrough, we want to be office space. And then the 11 stories above these 4 you can use for apartments. They're forcing me through zoning to provide what a residential community needs: places to work, places to live, places to shop. So zoning knows what the area needs, and to comply with zoning, you're going to provide it. Converted use properties, as we migrate down the page, this is in keeping with what I just talked about. You know, as you try to bring a residential community back downtown, you're converting factories, warehouses, office buildings, hotels, schools. Moving down, you see factory-built housing. You know, when you hear this, you want to think of the Adam and Eve in factory-built housing, which was called a trailer. But they stopped putting axles on them in the late 50s. They haven't been little trailers for a long time. Then they went to mobile homes, and I guess there's still a mobile home community out, but it's slowly evolving to modular, to factory built. And the quality of construction has gone up 1,000% over the last 20 years. About 2 miles away from me on Highway 86, I live in Clear out in the country. They just assembled a modular home. It took about 4 modules. If you hadn't seen it happen, you'd never think it was a modular home. It's a beautiful house. I'm blown away every time I drive by it. It looks like it was built from the ground up. Amazing. And we're over here on page 7. Fair housing. Again, guys, I'm just touching subjects. We're going to go into these in depth. Everything I'm referencing, we're just introducing the subjects to you. Fair housing is one of the largest set of laws that real estate practitioners are governed by. I don't know how old any of you are or how smart or stupid you are, but I have a feeling you've heard of fair housing and you understand the spirit of the law. There are certain protected classes from discrimination. Turning the page, page 8. As America is a capitalist economy, some people call it a free market. And a free market economy is based on the tenets of supply and demand. You know, every now and then, you know, young kids, young people, I think their job is protesting. That's all you see on the news, people protesting crap. I've heard of young people talking about a capitalistic economy is evil and all that. And I'm like, what else do you not know a damn thing about? Capitalistic economy is the best economy the world has ever known or will ever know. Because who's in charge? Not the government, me and you. You understand supply and demand? If there's a hamburger joint and it's never clean and the people are rude and the hamburger ain't really tasty, they're going to die on the damn vine, ain't they? Because me and you ain't going to go there, are we? So do you see in a supply and demand how me and you dictate what businesses survive and what businesses don't? If the government was in charge, like for some reason the young people want, every damn restaurant would be the DMV. Y'all get that? There is no incentive for the DMV to please you. Some beggars can't be choosers. You got to do business with the DMV. That's the way every damn restaurant would be. So supply and demand, a lot of you are like me. You went to college. I didn't graduate. I told you all that. But I took economics, microeconomics, and macroeconomics, and I took business law. If any of y'all had those 3 subjects, you're going to recognize a lot of information from those in this. And I remember taking microeconomics, macro rather, and beginning to study the tenets of supply and demand. It's a fairly simple concept. The more demand there is for something, the more it's usually going to cost. The less demand, the less it's going to cost. The less demand, the less the supply. And obviously, if you did take those classes, you know how nerds, academic nerds, can take a simple concept and nerd it up. Because, you know, when you get into the nerded up version of supply and demand, you know, you're looking for an equilibrium on a graph, you know, where supply and demand meet. But supply and demand certainly affects the real estate business. In 2008, when the recession hit, a terrible time in our country, everybody started losing their job. And if you didn't lose your job, you were scared of losing your job. And what people who have recently lost their job or are scared of losing their job don't do is they don't buy real estate. I remember in the summer of 2008, I think we had 1,300 closings in Birmingham. By the summer of 2009, that number had gone to 30. From 1,300 to 30, real estate dried up. There was no demand. So therefore, the prices plummeted. And then around 2013, the economy began to recover. Values began to recover. Right now, we're in a very unique situation This is one of the most unique economies in the history of the world, the last year and a half in the United States. And one of the things that's making it unique as far as real estate is the lack of inventory. Normally, real estate values would have plummeted, but the fact that there's no inventory is going to keep demand strong. Does that make sense? So you're coming into the business. I bet you had some people trying to talk you out of it because the market's not fantastic, but we're hanging on to value, which means commissions are still good. And if you go out there and work it like a regular job, you're going to do well. But if you listen to naysayers, you won't do well. It's a very good market out there. I mean, business is definitely dried up, but if you get out there and hustle, you can make a fine living. But you'll have probably two questions on supply and demand on the exam. One of them would be a sophisticated question. One of them won't. One of them may just say, you manage a 600-unit apartment complex. 599 of those 600 units are rented. Should you go up on rent or go down on rent? 599 out of 600 indicates demand for your complex. So I'm going to go up. That's a simple supply and demand question. Over here on page 9, and then we're going to take our break after this little block. Factors that affect supply. So you've got two things, supply and demand. So we're going to break them apart and talk about factors that affect supply. And frankly, these factors affect demand as well. But labor force availability and material costs. Guys, Alabama is a small, precious town, and there ain't a lot going on in They might have 12 closings a year. There's not a big labor force in Alabama. There's no industry. Therefore, there's not going to be a lot of real estate turning over. Government controls and monetary policy. You can see government's personality come out in the form of its policy. Guys, there's small towns in the world. And a lot of people move to small towns on purpose. Like I've been in Calera for 18 years now. I moved out to Calera because I wanted some fresh air and some elbow room. And I wanted to be able to pee anywhere I wanted to in my yard with nobody seeing me. So, small town. And people who live in small towns, that's one of the damn reasons they live there. And they don't want it to get bigger either. Now, typically when a builder builds a new home, they pay an impact fee. It's a tax, but they call it an impact fee. Because whenever I am a builder and I build a home, the thinking is I am negatively impacting the community. Why? Because now there's going to be more wear on the roads. Okay, and that's it. There's going to be, if I got kids, I'm going to be burdening the school system. We're going to be burdening the electrical grid because now there's a new tap into the grid. We're going to be burdening the water system. So the impact fee. Now, if it's a low impact fee, almost negligible, that's a city that's aggressively trying to grow. If the impact fee is big, that's a city saying it's big because we'd rather you choose to build somewhere else. We don't want to get bigger. So again, you can see government's personality on real estate come out in the form of policy. Turn to the page of factors that affect demand. Population. Guys, I've always used San Fran for this example, but the funny thing is San Fran's not a good example anymore. San Fran has been turned into a toilet. But San Fran, I'll just go stick to my old example because I don't want to have to invent one on the fly. San Fran is a city that has a burgeoning population. And real estate, a city has a finite amount of real estate. Why? Because figuratively speaking, there's a parameter around a city. So when you got a lot of folks wanting a little bit of something that everybody wants, drives the value up sky high. And the problem is exacerbated in San Francisco because San Francisco has more professionals per capita than most other cities, which means they make more money than most folks, which just drives the value up. a number of years ago, probably 25 years ago, I used to convene often. I'm in 5 different industries. I used to go to mortgage brokers, mortgage bankers, realtors, and the national educators summer conferences. I like to go because you meet friends, meet people from different parts of the country that do the same thing you do, and you get to drink and have fun. But whenever I'd go to a national convention, I would always try to add a day or two onto the back end and see the city, like have a little vacation. But I'd always try to go see open houses. And when I went in them, I wouldn't tell the people that I was in the real estate business. I just kind of wanted to see how they talked, how they decorated inside, their forms, what the realtor was saying and not saying. So I was in San Fran, went into a townhome. It looked like the townhome on the Cosby Show. I've got to change all my references. There's people in here probably never heard of the Cosby Show. They call them brownstones in San Fran. 2-story. This one was about 100 years old. It's about 1,800 square feet. I think it was a 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths. And they wanted $924,000 for it. And again, this was 30 years ago. And when I say dated, it was dated. And it was dated to the damn 30s, not the 60s and 70s, I mean, you had tile that was just really gross. It literally 10 layers of wallpaper over the years. And immediately, I was young then. Hell, I was probably about 30. I was thinking, what the hell do they do for a living in San Fran? Because I was picturing the people that would pay $924,000 for this not desirable property. But, it made me start thinking about this academic crap. Demographics. Demographics are important to business owners. They're important to people who build real estate. If I'm going to sell surfboards, I'm not going to do it in Minnesota. The population does not support a surfboard business. I'm going to be close to a coast. Now, that's insulting. I'm just trying to sell you the point very fast. Demographics are the result of demography. Demography is amazing how precise. There are companies that do demography. And what if I had a particular product that only a red-headed male between the heights of 5'10" and 5'11" could use? I could call some demography companies and say, I want a mailing list of every redhead between the ages of 30 and 35 that's between 5'10" and 5'11" in Birmingham. There's 13 of them, Mr. Yarbrough. I'll sell that list to you and have it over to you by the end of the day. Amazing the preciseness you can get with demography. But it's important in the real estate. But Publix will not put a store up unless X% of the population nearby has graduated from college. Employment and wage levels at the bottom. This is going to dictate supply and demand of real estate. In towns where there's no industry, typically there's just small towns. There's going to be mostly renters, and the price point of the real estate is going to be low. Whereas you got Silicon Valley, coincidentally, we've been talking about San Francisco. You got a bunch of 25-year-old computer nerds with millions of dollars, So the employment wage levels of the area are going to dictate the real estate in that area. Financial considerations for the homeowner. The pain in the neck about owning real estate is you do got to pay for stuff that breaks. I remember my nephew calling me. He was about 25. I appreciated the call. He said, Uncle Mark, I'm 25 now. I have upwards of $2,000 saved. Upwards. That was the funny part. Upwards, he said. He said, you think it's time for me to buy a house? I said, yeah, but you'd be taking some risk. coincidentally, I had just had to spend $7,000 on a new AC in August. Had I not had $7,000 laying around, I'd have been hot as hell for the next 2 months. Now in the modern, back then you couldn't get financing on an AC. Now you can get financing on a new AC unit, and that's a godsend for a lot of folks, I'm sure. But that was my conversation with my nephew, because it's not always the smartest thing to do is to own real estate. On paper, it sounds like it's always the smartest thing to do, but it's not always the smartest thing to do. Now, so we're in some math, and I want to tell y'all something. Guys, if you are great at math, that is not going to help you pass this exam. If you are crappy at math, that is not going to be the reason you fail. The exam you're going to have to pass with the state of Alabama to get your real estate license is going to be 120 questions. Guys, I just noticed I've gone past break. What's cell phone time, gang? Okay, we're going to take a break. If the whiteboard would pull up. I'll be damned. Okay, 7:20. See y'all back here after your 15-minute break. Uh.
3 days drawing, then you have to do digital. So.
All right, good to see y'all. We're back. So, okay, here we are. We're on page 11. Guys, I am not required by the state to teach math. Because sometimes in class, I got 75-year-olds, I got 20-year-olds. You cannot teach that those varying degrees, experiences, ages in a class math. And frankly, y'all, scientists have determined if you're 40 and bad at math, you're going to die bad at math. There ain't no fixing yourself now. Yeah. And I'm sure ain't going to try to fix you. Okay. Now, 120 questions.
I have calculator.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, you can use a calculator to test that.
Only 4 functions.
Out of 120 questions, that's how many is going to be on your exam. Only, it's either 6 or 7. Either one. I don't feel the need to be accurate. 6 or 7 math questions. They are limited. They can't put more than that. That's why I said, if you're great at math, it ain't going to be the reason you pass. If you're bad at math, it ain't going to be the reason you fail. And guys, what really kills test takers is anxiety. I have known people ultra smart, but just got real nauseous when it came to taking a test, and they'd fail. Got algebra coming out of their ears. You know, they're so smart, but they just lock up. They freeze up when they get to the exam. So, guys, I'm going to tell you, man, you've got to have the right mindset. I don't know you personally. You may be the proper mindset. You can't go in there scared. I'm getting tired at my age of hearing students in this class come up to me. I'm so scared, Mr. Yarbrough. I'm scared. I'm like, man, there's a lot in this world to be scared of. A bear when you hiking, stage 4, okay? But a damn multiple choice exam written by a nerd, you better get over yourself. Don't be worried, because just that little bit of anxiety can affect your performance 5 to 10%. And 80% of the people that fail the exam make between 65 and 69. Very few people bomb it. They come that close. And that's the amount that you're affected by the little anxiety, the physiological. So my point is if you are bad at math, when you come to a math question, you handle it mentally properly. You just get mad. You bastard! That's what you think in your mind. Okay? But don't go, because now you physiologically, you're getting changed with that anxiety, you know? So just maintain anger whenever you see a math question. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, put it and move on. But here's some math. We're going to do the other tax benefits. So be careful and be patient with me. Is what I meant. So, guys, a lot of the things I tell classes, guys, I'm insulting people's intelligence, but it's my job to assume you don't know things. The IRS recognizes 2 kinds of income. Ordinary income. Anybody want to tell me the second? Okay, I'm not insulting anybody's intelligence in here tonight. Huh? It's called capital gains. Capital gains income. Ordinary income, gang, is what you do for a living. Are you driving a school bus? You working accounts receivable at State Farm in a cubicle? Are you an insurance salesman? You're a school teacher, you're a fireman, whatever. That's ordinary income. Capital gains is the profit from the sale of an asset. So let's say I buy X number of shares of stock, pay $10,000, hold on to it for a couple of years. I sell that $10,000 worth of stock for $16,000. The difference is $6,000. I have to pay a large portion of that to the government. It's called a capital gain. So when you hear capital gain, think profit. Now, guys, during the Bush administration, there was the capital gains tax law was changed. Because I guess they got to thinking that owning a home is technically an investment. You build an equity, you got taxes, all that. But they thought, you know, a lot of red, white, and blue Americans that own homes, they're not that savvy. They're not smart with investment knowledge. So maybe we shouldn't do the capital gains tax on the sale of your primary residence. You know, maybe just rental properties, second homes, vacation homes. So they did. They changed the law. So I'm going to put up on the whiteboard what you need to know. Now, host disabled participant whiteboarding. I'll be damned. Let me text my IT. I'm going to wait for the reply to this, but we're going to move on. So I'll come back to this page once I get a reply. We are at the end of the chapter. You see on page 12 is a summary of the meat and potatoes of the chapter. They call it a key point review. And then what's very important, after every chapter, there's a 20-question quiz. Why is this important? Because guys, nerds that write multiple choice exams do not talk in the same language that me and you do. So this is a chance for you, the student, to see what you just heard and how the nerds are going to word it in the form of a question. You heard me explain it like a layperson, but you need to connect that to how the nerds are going to talk about it. Now we're going to skip chapter 1 and we're going to move on to chapter 2. We'll do our quiz and key point review for the next chapter. So we flip to page 15 and now we're on unit 2, real property and the law. Yeah.
Do you know this right here though? The real thing about the play, we don't get any kind of home thing, determination. We need to read over that to get it.
What exactly is your question? Do you need to read question 1? Is that what you're saying?
Question on key point review.
Yeah, hey, I'll chat with you at break. What we're going to do, let me explain, since I've left some ambiguity out there. When we get to the end of a chapter throughout this 8 weeks, I call it my 15 minutes. When we get to the end of the chapter, I'm going to ask you to spend 2 or 3 minutes in the key point review, rifling through it, cementing what we just heard lectured on. And then you're going to dive into the 20-question quiz. What do you think the answers to the quiz are? They're so smart. They are. They're in the back of the book. So take the 20-question quiz and then you can grade it. Okay. And that'll be the 15 minutes after every chapter. We spend 15 minutes exiting the chapter in that manner. So we're going to skip it for chapter 1. Y'all can certainly do that outside of class when you study it. So let's go into chapters 2. Our learning objectives, fairly short list. We're going to describe the concepts of land and ownership rights and real and personal property. And then we'll talk about the limitations of a real estate professional under the law. So let's turn the page. Guys, y'all could look at me and you could refer to me very specifically or very broadly. You could call me a human. It's a very broad way to refer to me. Or you could call me a male. That's a little more specific than a human. Or you could call me bald. That's a little more specific than just referring to my gender. Real estate can be discussed in the same way. So let's talk about on page 16, land. That's a very general way to describe real estate. In the second sentence, it says land is defined as the earth's surface extending downward to the center of the earth and upward to infinity. A lot of people who own real estate don't realize this until they take this course. That not only do you own the surface that you walk on, but you own from your property down to the core of the earth and as far into the heavens that man can control. Your real estate is like a stripper pole, okay? You've got your surface rights, you've got your subsurface rights, you've got your air rights. We'll talk about that again in a moment. On page 17, you see physical characteristics of land, immobility. You know, you can't put real estate in the back of a truck and take it across town. You can a ceiling fan, you can a couch, you know. This book is distinguishing real estate from any other big ticket item that you've been familiar with your whole life. Real estate is very unique. It is immobile. You can't tote it around like you can personal property. And until the earth blows up, real estate is indestructible, where everything else is destructible. Even a diamond, cars, everything is destructible. But real estate ain't. Uniqueness, like a snowflake, there are no two pieces of property alike. And you'll look to the right, and I want you to highlight the word non-homogeneity. In fact, we will not see the word unique from here forward. We'll be using the word homogeneous or non-homogeneous. Write snowflake above that. If I give you an example word that helps you understand something, do not trust that you will remember it. Write it down so when you're studying outside of class, you can recall what I said. Snowflake, we all heard since we were children, there's no two alike. That is a perfect word to tie you to non-homogeneity, because non-homogeneity is a nerd word for unique. So, because every piece of real estate has its own latitude, longitude, and altitude. But you know, real estate can be both homogeneous and non-homogeneous at the same time. We just agreed that real estate is non-homogeneous, but when you look at all the homes in a subdivision, what would you say? There's a lot of homogeneity. In a subdivision, they all look similar. So I hope you see that, where real estate as a unit can be non-homogeneous, but when you talk about a subdivision, now you can say, okay, I see some homogeneity in that neighborhood. Everything looks similar. So we talked about land. That'd be like calling me a human. Let's talk about real estate, like you're referring to my gender. You know, we're moving down page 17. Real estate is defined as land plus all human-made improvements to the land. So land is just talking about that, the land, subsurface, surface, and air. When I say real estate, I'm talking about land, subsurface, surface, air, and any improvements. Improvements is the nerd word for anything that's been done to the real estate. Primarily, I used the wrong word. More often than not, when you hear the word improvement, they're talking about the primary structure on the property, the house, if we're talking about residential real estate. But you can read there, an improvement to land can be any artificial thing added, attached on or below ground, such as a building, fence, water line, sewer pipe, trees, shrubs, other growing things that are made a part of the landscaping. But again, more often than not, when you hear an improvement being referenced, it's talking about the primary structure. And then the third, most inclusive term is real property. And I bet I'm going to tell you something you didn't know. Realty, you've heard that your whole life, haven't you? That's real property abbreviated. Personal property is also abbreviated and called personalty. Now, we've seen realty our whole life. You've not seen the word personalty your whole life. You will see it in this course. So when you see the word personalty, go, that's just personal property. It's abbreviated like real property. So when I talk about real property, I'm talking about the land, subsurface, the surface, the air. Talking about the improvements, but then I'm talking about any legal rights that are associated with the property. And you may be thinking, what the hell legal right are you talking about? There could be an easement crossing my property. That's permission for someone to use my property. Often you see utility easements. You ever see those power lines just running down the path? Sometimes they cross in people's property. Wouldn't that suck? The big ass power line, you know, I mean, just cross your property. You had to go walk outside and see these big 20, 30 foot tall gray power. It would suck. Let's turn the page. Now we're going to talk about the bundle of legal rights. Guys, unfortunately, when you got to take this course and deal with nerd stuff, you know, you understand that legalese is just a bunch of weird words. Unfortunately, they still use Latin, an extinct language. You know, a lot of Spanish. There's a lot of old English words that are 400 years old that haven't been used in 400 years that they're still using. So I'm telling you guys, the language and the words is why the repetition is necessary. Every concept that I'm going to explain to you, you will understand. None of this is going to be calculus. It's just the words that are associated with the concepts require the repetition on your part. But bundle of rights, basically what this is saying, that in America, whenever you own real estate, there are certain inherent rights that come with your ownership. You see, I have the right to possess. I have the right to control. I have the right to enjoy it. I have the right to exclude others. I have the right to dispose of it. Here's the reason they have a picture of a bunch of branches. 400 or 500 years ago in England, when a man sold his property, he would give the deed and then a bunch of sticks with a ribbon tied around them from a mature tree. It was a ceremonial formality, kind of like when a woman marries something old, something new, something blue, you know, some stupid stuff that you might do because of your culture. It had really no meaning. But regardless of whether it had any meaning or not, the term bundle of legal rights has hung around for hundreds of years. Now, interestingly enough, the bundle of rights that I studied from a book in 1987 are different than these. They're the same, but different. I know that doesn't make sense, but you know how the Lord's Prayer, in some churches you forgive trespasses, some churches you forgive transgressions, some churches, there's about 5 or 6 of them, you know, but it's the Lord's Prayer, just different people choosing different words. So I'm going to give you my bundle of rights. Oh, no, I'm not. Let's see if the person that's getting fired this week responded to my text. Postpone this because they just used like 80,000 nerd words to tell me how to fix it. I wouldn't have hired your ass. We'll talk about that later. I tell you what, you write down what I'm going to tell you. Okay, find you some white space. Write this word down vertically. Up and down. The word has 5 letters. U. My voice is changing. U-P-E-E-D. U-P-E-E-D. U-P. Who peed? I didn't pee. You pee. Not even trying to be cute. I tried to come up with a word to make that an acronym. That's all I could come up with. It was somewhat memorable. So here, let's fill in the words. You have the right to use your property. That's the U. You have the right to possess it. That's the P. You have the right to exclude others. That's the E. You know, put a sign up, no trespass. Exclude others. The next E is encumber. I'll come back and explain that in a moment. Encumber. The D is dispose. You have the right to use, possess, exclude others, encumber, and dispose of your property. The right of disposing your property is getting rid of it, like a garbage disposal, right? There's 3 ways I can dispose of my property. I can sell it, I can give it away, or I can die and leave it to somebody. We're just saying there's 3 ways you can separate yourself from your property. So the one I typically have to explain is encumber. Guys, I don't know your vocabulary, but encumber derives from the word cumbersome. Cumbersome means burdensome. So if I had a rock in my shoe and I'm on a hike, that rock is an encumbrance. So what's the context in real estate, Mr. Mark? Well, here's what it is. Everybody listening to me knows that I could own a piece of property, wake up one day and decide to be a landlord and rent it out, make some income, right? So if I do rent my property out, I'm pulling the P out and I'm giving it to a tenant, the right of possession. I still own the property, but at this moment, I do not own the right of possession. So if that rental property is the only other property that I own, and me and my old lady get in a squabble and she kicks me out, I can't go make my tenant scooch over for a couple of weeks. They can call the damn law on me, even though I got a deed. I can't possess what I own. I gave that right to somebody else. You understand that? So, guys, if you can't occupy or possess what you own, that's weird. That's a burden. So whatever the representation of the burden is called an encumbrance. So a lease represents a burden to me. It means I can't possess what I own. So the lease is called an encumbrance because it represents a burden to me, the owner. Like another example of an encumbrance is a lien. I've had a young person say, why is a lien a burden, Mr. Yarbrough? Well, you got a lien on your car if you're still making payments. Let me tell you what, miss 3 payments on. You're going to walk out in the morning whistling with your morning cup of coffee and your damn car ain't going to be there because they repossessed it. A lien is a burden. So it's an encumbrance to the owner. Whatever the representation of the burden is called an encumbrance. So all those words, all theirs, possession, control, enjoyment, exclusion, and they fall within the UP, just different words. Bottom of the page, title to real property. Guys, we use the word title often in real estate, but it ain't a piece of paper like it is in car world. So we talk about a title in car world, we talk about a piece of paper, mileage on there, names. What's the piece of paper we use in the real estate? Deed. Title in real estate is an abstract word. And again, I don't mean to insult your intelligence. In case you don't know what abstract means, it means it's intangible. You can't pick it up and touch it, fold it. Love is an intangible concept. Title is an intangible concept in real estate. It means ownership. So if I tell you, I have title to this building, I'm telling you I have ownership in this building. The document that I use to prove that is the deed. Moving over here to page 19. Real property versus personal property. Guys, our country is 250 years old. There's an alpha and omega. There's a beginning. Our country was born 250 years ago. So we had no laws. So the courts would hear disputes for the first time in our country's history. And the courts would think, well, that's a common dispute. Let's record what the dispute was. Let's record what our decision was so that when we have the same dispute later, we can refer back to the previous decision we made so we can be consistent. Every bit of this came about as a result of disputes. Real property versus personal property. Check this out, y'all. Part of this is true. I'm a fan of old homes. I love the high ceilings. I love the woodwork. I love the inserts, the built-in bookcases. It's nice. And I like just walking around feeling all the history in the house, feeling kids running around here playing with toys 60 years ago. I don't know why that's weird to me and cool. But let's say I'm looking at old homes and I'm looking at a few and I find one that makes my heart beat faster. I'm like, oh, this is the one. I make an offer. The offer's accepted. Here it is 35 days later. I'm pulling up in my moving van, taking possession. And I go up in my brand new old home. And where there was once original chandeliers that came with the property, there are now holes in the ceiling with wires coming out. In the room the man called his library, where there was mahogany wood bookcases, they're all gone, holes in the wall. And so obviously I'm upset. I sue the man. Now the courts have to determine who was deserving of those ceiling fans, perhaps chandeliers, the book, etc. This is where the subject of real property versus personal property comes up. The one word that clearly distinguishes real property from personal property is mobility. We just talked about that. Personal property is mobile. The ceiling fan in the back of my SUV coming home from Lowe's is personal property. But when I get home and I cinch it up to the ceiling, I have now attached personal property to real property, thereby converting that personal property to real property. Now, we would call the ceiling fan a fixture. Why? Because it's personal property that has now been affixed to real estate. So again, the key word is mobility. The bottom of the page. Factory built housing. We're in the subject of real property versus personal property. So why is this being discussed? What is factory built housing once it's constructed? It's personal property. We see it on trailers taking up 3 damn lanes on the interstate all the time. Why would I want it to be considered real property? I don't expect y'all to have any of these answers. I'm just asking to get your brain kicked off. Why would I feel the need to have my factory built housing deemed real estate versus personal property? And I don't know if y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all ever seen the underpinnings on factory built housing? I'm just go ahead and get to the chase. I want mortgage financing. You can't get mortgage financing on personal property. Well, what kind of financing would you get on a factory built home, Mr. Yarbrough, if you can't get mortgage financing? You get down mobile home financing, and it ain't near as attractive as mortgage financing. The longest term you can get on mobile home financing is 10 years. How long can you get on mortgage financing? You're damn right, 30. You think that stretches the payments out better than a 10-year note? Hell yeah. And the interest rate's usually in double digits, whether you got good credit or not on trailer financing. But on mortgage financing, you know, you can get 3 to 8. Right now, we're about 7. So mortgage financing is the reason I want my factory built housing to be deemed real estate. The lender's going to require me to have it tied down. They usually are going to require me to skirt the under part, you know, with some siding or brick because they don't want you to be able to see it. A lot of times they'll make you add a driveway and a sidewalk. Turning the page. Again, guys, we're very much in the overview. That's why I haven't asked you to highlight a whole lot. And guys, when I skip pages or paragraphs, and I rarely skip whole pages. I may skip a paragraph or two. That doesn't give you permission to skip it. I focus on the meat and potatoes in class. You got to read the whole story outside of class. Plants, find plants, and then highlight the word emblements in the first paragraph, highlight the word severance in the second paragraph. So we know.
I think something different. That's him on the side.
Just read the paragraph.
Huh. Let me hold on, class. I want to look at one of these books.
The next page, bro.
Again, we just discovered this a couple of weeks ago that they did a different printing within the same edition. So I'm on page 20.
Page 19.
So again, just follow me. Just flow. Damn it. You'll see where I'm at.
Yeah.
All right, y'all, I'm back. Let me find where we was at. Yeah, the plants. Implements, guys, you can write this down. They are the crops of a tenant farmer. And in case you don't know what a tenant farmer is, you may have heard him called a sharecropper. Let me give you an example. If, let's say I'm a third generation farmer, my daddy was a farmer, my grandfather was a farmer, and now I'm farming, and we farm in the same property. And we farm 200 acres. We own, as a family, 150 of the 200 acres, and we rent 50 acres from a neighbor. And we've been renting from them for 3 generations. And the neighbor that I've been renting from calls me up. He says, Mark, this is going to be our last year. You know, I'm getting older. I'm going to leave this property to my sons, and they don't want to keep renting to y'all. They want to develop it. They want to do something. I was like, wow. So I plant my soybeans, and a year goes by. Comes time to harvest, which is also at the end of the lease. But maybe we didn't get enough rain that year. And maybe at the time I'm supposed to harvest, it's not time to harvest. And maybe I've got to wait 2 weeks. But if I wait 2 weeks to harvest, the lease expires. So the courts began to have to rethink this. Wouldn't that be a damn shame if a man could not take advantage of a full year's worth of toil and labor because Mother Nature and a damn contract didn't get together in time out? Yeah, the courts began to realize Mother Nature ain't gonna make sure people get took care of. They ain't aware of contracts and leases. So in that instance, one similar to that, I would be allowed as the farmer to go get my implements. So implements are the nerd word for crops of a tenant farmer. Let's talk about this word severance. And above that word, you don't have much space, but you put constructive versus actual, because there's constructive severance and then there's actual severance. So let's say I own 1,000 acres, timber on the 1,000 acres. And in this scenario, I'm selling 100 of the 1,000 acres timber to another company. I'm not selling the real estate, just the timber. And maybe it's a virgin stand of timber. And when I say virgin stand of timber, I mean, it's up to my knees. And the guy that buys a virgin stand of timber probably has no intention of harvesting it for 10, 12 years, depending upon the kind of wood. And I'm not into timber. I have a friend that has a timber company in Tuscaloosa. He tries to learn me up on some of this, but it's more sophisticated than you would think. Point being, I have sold 100 of my 1,000 acres, not the acreage, just the timber, to a company. They are not going to come cut it down for another 10 years. But let's say 3 years after I sell the 100 acres of timber, a man approaches me. He says, Mr. Yarbrough, I want to buy the whole 1,000 acres. The dirt, the timber, I want to buy the whole 1,000 acres. And I think, you know, I'm 75, let's say. I'm wanting to, you know, dial it down in life. I'm ready to get out from under it. Yeah, I'm agreeable. But I say, you see that 100 acres of trees? He says, I see them. I said, pretend you don't, because you don't get them. They were severed 3 years ago, constructively. See, actual severance is where I actually cut the damn tree down. To sever, to cut it down. Constructive severance was to sell it. So when I sold it contractually, according to the law, I might as well have cut it down. Because if I sell the property later to someone else, they're not going to get that timber. I sold it 3 years ago, constructively severed it. We just talked about a fixture. The second paragraph under fixtures, it says a fixture is personal property that has been so attached to land or a building that by law it becomes a part of the real property. They give you some examples of fixtures. Now, guys, if I own a home, let's say I own that old home, and it does have an original chandelier that came with the property, 100 years old, probably worth $50,000, probably an antique. Can I take that with me? Yeah. I can unattach a fixture and take it with me. Where you're getting into the law is where I'm showing the property, creating the illusion that what you see, you're gonna get. And then when you move in, if you don't get what you saw, then now we got a legal issue and we got people arguing and cussing each other and attorneys being called and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, if you wanted to keep some stuff, you could. Just make sure all the parties know that that ain't staying with the property. Mobility, I've already told you, is the key word to distinguish real property from personal property, but it could be the intent of the parties. Let me stick with that same vein. I'm out in the country looking for a property. I find a property sitting on 4 acres, and my luck, that 4 acres is full of fruit trees. There's pear trees, there's peach trees, there's 3 different kinds of apples. There's some scups, some muscadine, some red grapes, some white grapes, some blackberries, some blueberries, some strawberries. Can you imagine buying such a property? It's just such a fantasy. Somebody's laughing. He's like, he is old. Damn fruit trees is turning Mark on. But, you know, and let's say when I look at the property, the trees are weighted down. I'm like, hell yeah, perfect timing. I got an uncle, he got a slot at the farmer's market, so I'm going to pick a lot of that fruit, sell it to my uncle, make some folding money. And then I'll have a housewarming, invite all my family and friends, and we'll just have people make a mess of pies. So I pull in with my moving truck, and the first thing I notice is them trees have been picked clean. So I sue them. And now the judge has got to decide who was entitled to the fruit. Well, ain't y'all wanting to think that I should be, because the fruit is attached to the tree, which is attached to the earth, which makes it real estate, right? But again, look up at the top of page 21. Legal tests of a fixture. I don't need you to memorize those, but these are the things the courts would rely on in such arguments. And right now I'm using the 4th bullet, intention of the person in placing the item on the land. What if those trees in my scenario are planted in rows? The intent of the owner was to what? Harvest. So the judge would tell me, Mr. Yarbrough, I know this is technically real estate, but the intent of the owner to harvest is apparent to the courts. So we're going to say that the owner had the right to take that fruit. It could be, look at the first bullet, method of attachment. Let's say the old home I just bought has window units, or as my family says, winder units. But yeah, it didn't have central heating there. Got window units throughout. I pull up my moving van and there's damn shears and the windows are open and the shears are flapping out in the wind. The damn owner took the window units with him. I'm going to stop calling them window units because I really don't call them window units. But nevertheless, we go to court. Now the judge has got to decide who was entitled to those air conditioners. The method of attachment. Have y'all ever noticed that a window unit is a temporary attachment? Y'all, I am literally considering, in the name of nostalgia, getting a window unit in my bedroom. First of all, a lot of people are looking at me like you've never slept with a window unit. Who in here has never slept with a window unit?
I've never slept in.
Yeah, never slept with a window unit. You mean everybody else? You? Good for you too. Only 2 weirdos. Well, first of all, you sleep like you're in a coma. I mean, and I haven't slept good in 56 years. And you can hang meat. So I get to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, you know, get a good night's rest and didn't have to put my supper in the refrigerator. Just set it on the dresser. Yeah, method of attachment. It's a temporary method of attaching. So the judge would say, Mark, I'm sorry, but the owner had a right to take them with him. That was not a permanent attachment. And then ultimately, look at the fifth bullet, agreement of the parties. Guys, you cannot do something repetitively without acquiring a certain amount of moxie that comes with experience. You'll take a new listing, you'll walk through the house, you'll start seeing things go, oh, there's going to be arguments over that. Arguments over that. So you'll put, when you put it in the MLS, you'll put it in the showing instructions, chandelier is not to remain with the property. Instead of waiting for people to get angry at each other over misunderstandings, I'm just going to anticipate it when I see it coming and address it by disclosing to all the parties. Does that make sense? Trade fixtures at the bottom. We've been talking about fixtures. So what's a trade fixture, Mr. Yarbrough? Well, think of tools of my trade. What if I'm a restaurateur? You go in the back of my restaurant, you see stainless steel, industrial size ranges, freezers, prep counters, dishwashers, all that. And they're bolted into the wall and they're bolted into the floor. Well, the law says I can take my trade fixtures with me. Why? Because they're the tools of my trade. But I want you to, in that paragraph, I want you to go to the bottom of the paragraph and highlight not the last line, but the 3 lines above the last line. You're going to highlight the sentence that begins, trade fixtures must be removed on or before the last day the property is rented. The tenant's responsible for any damage caused by the removal of a trade fixture, and trade fixtures that are not removed become the owner property of the landlord. Those are the things that you may need to know in regard to trade fixtures. Here's the point of the first sentence. If my lease is up on May 30th, but I'm backing a truck up on June the 2nd to get my trade fixtures, the owner got a right to stand by and say, you 2 days too late, Mr. Yarbrough. This now belongs to me. So I have the right to take my trade fixtures with me. I got to remove them before my interest in the property expires. And if the removal causes some damages, like big old gaping holes in the wall, then I have to take care of that, you know. And everything I'm saying to y'all is reasonable. This isn't calculus we're talking about. Just takes a little bit of time to remind yourself, get it to start sticking on the brain. So now we're over here on page 22. I'm about to let y'all go. Our first night is almost done. Oh, it's break time. Yeah. The tenant that is moving, taking their trade fixtures with them. Well, you don't have a seller with a tenant. You have, like, I'm a tenant here. I rent. So if I'm the tenant that's leaving and there's a new tenant coming in, I would have to remove those trade fixtures on or before the last day. Are we clear or not? We did get clear, because if we're not, keep going. Okay. Oh yeah, it's what time is it? Cell phone? 8:19. See y'all back here in a bit. We should get out of here by 9. Yeah, I'm gonna get those at the end of the night. In fact, I'm gonna ask y'all to fill them out and put them up here. Please review your student enrollment agreement. They're in your folder. When you fill it out, please print block letters so that someone reading it can understand. And I don't need your official birth certificate. That's the government, that's state. We just want to know what you go by first and last. I see your dad and Brittany's shot a little bit, seems like, in social media.
Well, they moved. They lived in Mount Brook, but they just moved up to Smith Lake. So we used to rent it out, but then a tree fell on my grandmother's house, so we moved her in there.
Yeah, how is your grandmother?
She is.
John passed, didn't he?
Rudolph? Oh, no, he's still,
Are you kidding? Come on, Sean.
man, 70 something.
Oh, that's all?
Maybe.
Gotta be in his early eighties.
Yeah, I was about to say, don't quote me, 'cause he's in a veterans hospital down in Pell City. So he's down there, but
Oh, permanent. So he's in bad shape. It's an old guy.
dementia is really,
20 years ago, John wasn't looking that good. I used to say that to you. I thought he was declining then. Anyway, but life's okay.
yeah,
Haven't
Sandy
haven't
is,
seen him in so long.
we were actually just looking today, funny enough, before we came. But now, there's been a lot changing.
Yeah. They enjoying living out there on Smith Place? They got a good lot or they speak lot?
Good line, good line. It's on a hill, but it's a 2 acres,
Yeah.
maybe 3. It's
You
not.
got them a couple of boats?
They have a boat,
Yeah.
I think. I haven't been up there in a map, kind of been focused on
Yeah, yeah.
down here, but. So how many people are on your thing now?
On what?
Your.
I think I have 47 virtual, no, I'm sorry. 25 virtual. But I don't know how many satellite virtual. I think we have about 13.
And each has like, what, 10
All right, here we go, y'all. Oh, really? Lighter? Ah, I've never handled before. I would like to. All right, guys, I know y'all don't want to sit here and shoot the bull like I like to. So let's get back to what we're doing. We are now on 23, 22. You know, subsurface right. Again, guys, here's the thing with real estate. We just talked about earlier. The fact you got your subsurface. Is there a goof up on the
I think
whiteboard?
your camera's off for people.
Yeah, the first $90 is technical.
Like, I'm looking at the top right and it says you're mute and your camera's off. So I was just making sure that's not for your.
I don't show up when I sit down?
No, you show up there, you show
Like,
up.
you see the top right picture, it shows that you're mute. So I was just making sure you're not mute for your online students.
Oh, I see. You're interrupting in the name of kindness.
Sorry.
All right, gang, here we go. So, you know, you got your real estate, you got your subsurface, got your surface, got your air rights. You can own those piecemeal. I can own all three, or I could just own my surface and my air rights. It's not unusual. I think I said this earlier, to find out that you do not own your subsurface rights. You know, maybe a coal mining company bought it 40 years ago because they discovered a vein of coal and they have no reason or need to explore it now, but they can if and when they want. You ever seen two buildings connected by like a 5th-story walkover? They got a deed to that. They only own the air rights. They don't own the surface underneath it. They don't own the subsurface. So you can own one of the three or all three or two of the three. Water rights, bottom of page 23. And then, you know, let's keep flowing to where you see riparian rights. Some people own property connected to water. And the law thought to set up two categories of water right ownership. So you could either be said to have riparian rights or littoral rights. I'm going to tell you the distinction to help you save some ink. Littoral is for a large body of water. Don't write it down. You know what's going to remember? What you're going to remember? The L for littoral means large, like the Gulf of Mexico. Now, a stream, a creek, a lake, that's riparian. And I used to think R for river. I'm just trying to pass on some things I used to use, but it's not going to be hard to remember littoral is large. Now, if you've got riparian rights, the law felt the need to create two subgroups of riparian rights. You see the illustration. You might live on what the law says, a non-navigable body of water, meaning you cannot, for industry purposes, go up and down the waterway. Or you may live on a navigable body of water. You see those compared to each other side by side. So here's what we want to know before we move on. If you live on a non-navigable body of water, your property line extends to the middle of the waterway. The illustration shows you that. If I live on a navigable body of water, then my property line extends to the low water mark. Right there of the navigable river with that illustration, right, low water mark. Now, I've had students say, what's the low water mark? Mark, I think, I don't know a whole lot about stuff like that. But guys, you know, tides ebb and flow, right? The moon will make the water move up and down within 24 hours. And sometimes there's waterways, lakes, river streams that are affected at periods of time in the year by Alabama power damming. So when they say the low water mark, whatever the lowest point in a calendar year is where your property line extends to. So littoral, large bodies of water. And you know what's included in large bodies of water? The Great Lakes. I remember the first time I went to Chicago. That's someone who took a damn break 10 minutes longer than everybody else.
Make it open up.
Would you?
Yeah, I got you. I'll beat them up for you.
Got the gall to hit the damn doorbell. But yeah, I saw Lake Michigan for the first time, blew my mind.
Isn't it wild?
4-foot waves rolling in, bigger than any wave I've ever seen in Gulf Shores. I was blown away. I was like, this is a lake?
And then you go through like the trails in the woods to like get there. Did you do that with all the?
I did not get to do that. No.
Oh,
I've only seen the downtown part,
oh,
but I have seen, there are some really, that look like the Caribbean
yeah.
in Michigan, blue water. It's crazy. Nevertheless, my ADD, don't get me sidetracked, man. But Latour writes, your property line extends to the high water mark. The high water mark. Guys, I used to be a newspaper reader. I used to read 5 a day. I used to read 5 magazines a day. My ADHD compels me to absorb information. And so I just read constantly. You can't do that today. It's really weird. It was a 5-year transition for me, not reading the paper every day. It threw my whole life out of whack. But I was in Chicago years ago, and I was sitting there drinking my morning cup of coffee, reading the Chicago Sun. And I'll be damned if I didn't see a Latour rights case that was talked about on the front page. And it was in the Illinois Supreme Court. I was like, this crap is real. Y'all, I've been teaching this. I had to learn it like y'all, and you never hear this crap in real life. And I saw it on the front page of the Chicago Sun. I was like, wow. People that lived on Lakeshore in Chicago along Lake Michigan were preventing people from walking up and down in front of their property along the water. And apparently enough people in the public got upset, they sued. The people that sued the homeowners lost. Then it got appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ultimately said no. Lake Michigan means they have littoral rights, which means their property line extends to the high water mark, which means the beach belongs to the public. Okay, nobody, if I own property on the beach, I cannot prevent people from walking up and down the beach in front of me. Now, can I prevent you from coming off the beach and up onto the damn sea oats? Yeah, because that's beyond the high water mark. Y'all understand that? Now, the nerds call the beach tidal lands, you know, because that's where the tide ebbs and flows. But my word, me and your word is beach. Beach belongs to the public. Page 25, at the top of the page, accretion, reliction, erosion, avulsion. Weird words, I'm going to make them easy. Let's do them one at a time. Let's do erosion. I don't even think you need to write nothing down. Here's what erosion is. The gradual loss of land through the natural action of water. See, that was a nerded up version of what you already knew. They say Niagara Falls gets 2 inches shorter every year. What would be the reason? I was testing y'all. Thank you. Their short-term memory is shot. The 3 coming in just smoking the weed out in the parking lot. So erosion, we know what that is. You just got to know the damn nerd words. That's why I say you got to absorb this information. You got to get down with their language, unfortunately. So accretion, y'all, is the opposite of erosion. It's the gradual increase of land through the natural action of water. Y'all, my woman is a Cajun and proud of it. And I'm going to tell you now, Cajuns are crazy as hell. Mm-hmm. And, you know, sometimes you put the TV on and you see them Cajuns in them wind boats hauling ass to all them little islands, you know, looking for anything moving. Guys, the Mississippi River has been cutting America in half for millions of years. It starts in Minnesota and it heads down to the Gulf. Do you know what runs in the water and deposits in the Gulf? Are you familiar with the word silt? S-I-L-T? Yeah, dirt. And over millions of years, it has formed all those islands that are off the Horn of Louisiana that we see them Cajuns and the wind boats hauling butt through there. Those are an example of accretion. Accretion erosion. So we've gotten 2 of the 4. Avulsion is just the worst case of erosion. It's the sudden loss of land through the natural action of water. Guys, there are people who live in California on the Pacific Ocean. You know, them high bluffs. They walk out sometime in the morning with their morning cup of tea, and they're like, where'd my gazebo go? And my cat. You know, they have mudslides. They lose huge chunks of land in an instant. You know, it just falls away. That is avulsion, you know. So mudslide avulsion. Niagara Falls accretion, Niagara Falls erosion, the Pacific California avulsion, mudslide, accretion. That's New Orleans. Damn it, I'm getting all these wrong. Reliction, look at the second paragraph. You know, if Alabama Power was to go dam up a waterway in North Alabama, it's going to affect that water that goes down south through the state. And some of it will never get water again. And some people who had wetlands or just water on their property, now there's grass growing on it. They have now acquired title to a new amount of land because the water source dried up somewhere. And that's where the word reliction comes into play. So we just learned 4 words that have to do with water. Middle of page 25, doctrine of prior appropriation. That's 250 years ago when our country was being formed. Waterways were a natural border between states. So a lot of states' borders is a river. I mean, a portion of the border between Alabama and Georgia is what? Does anybody know? The Chattahoochee. And Georgia and Alabama have been fighting over the Chattahoochee water for a long time because Atlanta is thirsty. And they primarily rely on Lanier, Lake Lanier. And Lake Lanier ain't cutting a mustard. So they've been trying to get all up in our water. We've been fighting with them in the courts for 25, 30 years. But really, the 3 states I think of, Nevada, Arizona, California. Y'all know that there would be no humans in those 3 states if it weren't for man being able to divert water. If the Colorado River, and which feeds into Lake Mead and the other lake, I can't remember, all 3 of those states, through the doctrines, are constantly in the courts fighting over that water. I have a feeling that in our lifetime, those 3 cities, Phoenix, Vegas, and LA, will become apocalyptic cities. They're just going to run out of water. And it'll be fun to watch an apocalyptic city in our lifetime without having to watch a movie and see an apocalyptic city. The bottom of the page, I've been told that first sentence is one you need to highlight. Guys, you would like to think the coast is our property line. You know, you ever hear people making fun of old men? You know, old men, you get to a point, you're retired, you sit on the porch and just tell people to get off your property. Well, our property line goes beyond the coast and it goes out into the water. Every now and then when you read the news, you know, it'll say, the Philippines are upset with the Chinese. One of their ships passed through their waters. You know, we decided in 1982, law of the sea, even though you might have highlighted the whole sentence, take your pen and circle those 4 words, law of the sea, 1982. That's where we decided where our property line, if you will, was in the waters surrounding the country. Just remember, according to students, guys, I get nuggets from students who go take the exam. And when they give me the nuggets, I give them to you. So they told me, yeah, law of the sea, you need to know, Mark. I said, thank you. Oh, here on page 26, and this is the last thing, and we're done. Before you leave, class, I'm talking to my people, not y'all. I want you to put your student enrollment agreements up there in that chair. So economic characteristics, a little bit about what I'm fixing to tell y'all is redundant of what I've already told you. One of the things that makes real estate unique from an economic standpoint is the fact that they ain't making no more of it. There's a finite amount of real estate, the earth. So that means it's scarce. And real estate is unique in that you can improve its value significantly by improving it. You can't do that to other things. I mean, I could buy a $10,000 used car and put $3,000 with a brand new fancy stereo in it. Do I now have a $13,000 car? No, I got a $10,000 car with a nice stereo, which is a bonus. Permanence of investment until the earth blows up. That's what makes real estate unique, different than other products. Cars, I don't care how fancy and nice they are. They're 1 foot closer to the grave when they come off that assembly line. Area preference, I want you to highlight that word situs, S-I-T-U-S. It's a Latin word. I know y'all have heard, because you see it referenced in that first sentence, what are the three most important factors of real estate? Location. And we all agree with that, don't we? I'd much rather have a property on the beach than one by a landfill. It's not hard to understand that. But there's the situs. The place there is the noun place, not the verb place, like to place an item on a table. This is my place. It's that text, that context. This is my place, not your place. On some of the multiple choice questions, they're going to require you to be a verbiage detective. There'll be one word in the question. If you don't know what it means, you don't get the context of the whole question. So I use situs as an example. There could be a long scenario and they use the word situs in it. So basically, if you know what the word situs is at that point, you know that the context of the question is location. If you can't remember what the word situs means, then you wouldn't get that. And perhaps that's the clue you needed as a test taker. So, you know what, guys? I hope you're now understanding why I told you I think you need to study every day. Because your mouths have been open for 3 hours and I've shoveled a fair amount into it. And this is nothing compared to the rest of the course. I told you this was an overview. This was an appetizer. This is simple. This is light, airy, fresh. I mean, I'm going to ask y'all to unhinge your jaw because I'm going to be shoveling 3 times as much into your mouth every single night that we have class. And it's going to get more sophisticated. But guys, I'm telling you right now, I know people in the business, and they're friends of mine. Some of them family, y'all, that couldn't add 2 and 2 together. They're dumb as hell. And I'm talking about my kin. I'm talking about dear friends of mine. And I would say that to my dear friend's face. Because they'd say the same thing back to me. Point being is, this is doable if you just spend the time with the repetition. That's all. Because I don't think there's any concept that I sold y'all tonight that was over your head. I think everything I told you was within your realm of being able to understand. It's just the words. That's, again, I know I'm being redundant. So, guys, we're going to have some fun. In fact, let me tell y'all a little story. I heard this on the news the other day. There was a man who had gotten caught. He had been arrested for murdering his entire family and the family pet. They had him on the stand. And the prosecuting attorney says, "Is it true that you killed your wife with this very hammer?" He said, "Yes." And someone in the courtroom said, "You bastard." And the judge said, "Who said that? You can't talk out in my courtroom." Nobody admitted it. Prosecuting attorney, you may continue. Prosecuting attorney looked at the man and said, "Is it true you killed your children with the same hammer?" He held it up. He said, "Yes, it is true." "You bastard." Who is saying "you bastard" in my courtroom? You're not allowed to talk in my courtroom. Nobody admitted it. Prosecuting attorney, you may continue. "Is it true you killed your family pet with this hammer?" "It is." "You bastard." The judge saw who it was. It was a man in the back corner of the courtroom. "Sir, I'm gonna have to put you in jail for contempt. I've told you twice not to talk out of my courtroom, but please tell me why you keep yelling, you bastard. I'm his neighbor, Your Honor. I've been asking to borrow his hammer for 5 years. Every time he says he ain't got one. Y'all, the first class is heavy. Threw a bunch of rules onto you and talk to you like you're 12 years old, telling you need to study and all that. We won't be all adultish tomorrow night. We're just going to talk real estate. All right. So pleasure meeting y'all. Have a safe trip home. I will see y'all tomorrow night at 6 p.m. But let me tell you one more thing. We have a Facebook page, a My Real Estate School Facebook page. I'm going to ask you to follow it or like it. We have a My Real Estate School exam prep page. The exam prep page can be used and is used as a bulletin board for students. You know, you may have a question, other students can chime in. I will also put information and videos I think are helpful. I'll post them on that page. But here's, as I close, what I want you to know is that My Real Estate School Facebook page is the quickest way to get an answer to a question you have. Now you can email our admin. I get the hiccups. You can email our admin. You can call. And guys, we maintain normal business hours Monday through Friday, but you might get our voicemail because we're a small company and we talk to hundreds of students every day. But my phone buzzes when we get a Facebook message on My Real Estate School's Facebook page, just like when I get a text. So if you have admin related questions, questions related to the material, students will take practice quizzes and they don't understand why their answer is wrong and their answer is right. And they'll take a picture and they'll include that with their message. Mr. Yarbrough, why is C the answer and not A? So My Real Estate School's Facebook page is the quickest and easiest way to get answers to questions. Now that I've said that, see y'all tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Moderators, let your students sign the roster. Make sure that they're took care of before they leave. You satellite students, do not ask questions of the people at the location where you're taking the class. They're allowing us to use their facility. They don't know the answers to any of this, to the material, to the admin, etc. Forgive them. They're not required to know. Okay, we are. So I'll see y'all tomorrow night, 6 p.m.
Can I have a blank one?